We are continuing our discussion about Abraham today, and we're going to go to the 18th chapter of Genesis, starting in the 17th verse. And just to give you a little background here, Abraham had 3 men appear to him, and apparently this was God or some angels that had come. And so in the 17th verse, it has God saying, "Shall I hide from Abraham that thing which I do, seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth will be blessed in him? For I know him, that he will command his children and his household after him, and they will keep the way of the Lord to do justice and judgment, that the Lord may bring upon Abraham that which he has spoken of him." And then the Lord said, "Because the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grievous, I will go down now and see whether they have done altogether according to the cry of it, which is come unto me, and if not, I will know." In these verses, God says, because Abraham is righteous, because Abraham is connected with me in a covenant, I need to let him know what's going to happen. As we have talked about, God is justice. He is truth. And when you have an agreement with somebody, when you have a covenant with somebody, it is justice to communicate between those two parties. There are these little truths scattered all through Scripture that explain to us how you're supposed to act. God said the way that you're supposed to act when you're in a covenant or a contract with somebody is to communicate with them and let them know what's going on. That's how you know that it's a godly thing, is to communicate between contract partners. And God says the people of Sodom are doing really terrible bad things. And they are hurting each other, and they're hurting other people, and they're being very destructive. And I can't allow that to continue. It is destructive. It hurts people. It hurts people that I love. And I can't let those people continue to be hurt any longer. I mean, yes, this is sort of my interpretation of that. But I think if you think about it, this makes sense. What we get in these stories is we basically just get the bones. And we do have to read a little bit into it. And what I'm seeing is God's not going to just knock you on the head because you don't do what he tells you to do. God says, I have to protect people because I love people. I'm in a covenant with certain people who will be in a covenant with me. I can't allow innocent people to be harmed and hurt. And so I'm going to have to do something about that. And so the interesting part of this story is that Abraham, because he has a contract with God, he has this ability to go and negotiate with God. And he says, God, if there's 50 people in that city that are righteous, you wouldn't destroy the whole city just for 50 people, would you? And God says, no, I won't do that. If there's 50 people in that city, I won't destroy it. And Abraham's thinking, well, yeah, but my nephew Lot is living there. So, well, you won't destroy the city for 20 people, would you? He's trying to save Lot, I think. That's what I think. And God says, well, no, I won't destroy the city for 20 people. If there's 20 righteous people in that city, I won't destroy it. Well, okay, but I don't know if there's 20 people in Lot's house. Maybe, what if there's only 10 people in the city that are righteous? And God says, yeah, that's fine. I won't destroy the city if there's 10 righteous people in the city. Well, it turns out that there was only one righteous person in the city. And so God said, we had our negotiation, we talked about it, and I told you I wouldn't destroy it for 10, but guess what? There's not 10, so I'm going to destroy it. So God sends his angels, God sends his messengers into Sodom to tell Lot, you need to get your stuff, get your family, and get out of town. because this place is going down. Well, what we learn in this story is that the people of Sodom thought it was a really good idea to rape these guys that had come into the city, which turns out they're angels, and you're not gonna rape them because they are angels. And so basically what happens is they say, get your family and get out of town. Lot goes around and he tells all of his kids, he says, you guys, we got to get out of town. This town is going down. This town is going to be destroyed. And all of his family was like, yeah, whatever, old man. Get the heck out of here. We're having a good time. And so Lot takes his wife and his 2 daughters, and they head out of town. And God tells them, get out of town and don't even look back, because if you look back, you're going to be affected by what's happening. And you know the story. So Lot takes his wife and his 2 daughters, and they get out of town. And on the way out of town, his wife starts thinking, yeah, but I really liked it there. I really liked what was going on there. I didn't have a problem with all of that stuff. I liked the clothes and the food and the fun. And she turns around and she's turned into a pillar of salt. Now, I don't know exactly what that means. There have been theories that maybe that was part of a nuclear explosion that turned her into salt. I don't know what that is, but whatever it is, she was destroyed because she couldn't let go of that evil place. And the story goes on that Lot, him and his daughters, they find a cave, and they go into this cave, and the daughters are like, we are the last people on earth. Because they don't know. They think that the entire world has been destroyed. And so they're like, we're the last people on this earth. Everyone is dead. We need to make our father sleep with us so that we can have children, because otherwise the whole world is going to be over. And so that turns out to be the Midianites are the product of this incestuous relationship that they have. Okay. The next scripture that we're going to look at is Genesis chapter 22, verse 5. The background that you need for these verses is that Abraham's wife did have a son, and this son, God says to Abraham, would you be willing to sacrifice your son if I asked you to? And Abraham says, I got this son from God. So if God has to, and this is what it says in the New Testament, if God has to, he will raise him up again from the dead, because God promised me that I'm going to have children like the stars of the sky. And so the symbolism in this story is that Abram, a lot of people think, oh, well, if I was Abram, it would be so hard for me to sacrifice my son. But Abraham knows that God had made a covenant with him. He knows that God walked in blood and said, you are going to have children. You're going to have so many children, they're going to be like the stars in the sky. And you're going to be a great nation, and they are going to come through your son Isaac. So, really for Abraham, it wasn't nearly as hard for him as we want to make it seem. Abraham knows that God gave his word. God promised and said, I will make you a mighty nation. And it's all going to come through Isaac. And so Abraham takes his son up to the mountain, and he's getting ready to sacrifice Isaac. And God says, wait, we're not going to do it that way. I've provided a substitute. Now this is all symbolic. You got to understand, this is not God just asking Abraham to kill his son so he can raise him from the dead. This is God showing us through Abraham and acting it out in physical form and making a point and setting things into motion in the spiritual realm that will continue for thousands and thousands of years. God says, I have provided a sacrifice in place of your son. And because you were willing to sacrifice your son, you have now opened the door so that I can sacrifice my son for you. If you were willing, I'm willing, and I will take care of this, and I will provide a substitute to take your place so that you don't. I mean, it's basically the same thing that happened in Genesis 15, where God walked through the pieces of blood and allowed Abraham to not have to suffer the consequences of breaking the covenant. In the same way, Abraham did not have to sacrifice his son because God provided a substitute. And that substitute is symbolic of what Jesus did when Jesus came. Jesus was killed as our sacrifice, as our substitute, to put us in right relationship with God, to undo what Adam did, and to bring us back into fellowship with God, which is what the purpose of the whole thing is. All right. So, tomorrow we'll come back. Tomorrow's the last day we're going to talk about Abraham. We will come back tomorrow and finish up this subject. If you have any questions or comments, you know how to send me an email, and I will discuss this with you if you have something to add or if you need to correct me on something. That'd be awesome. So, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye. What goes up must come down.